Well, hello friend, and welcome to another episode of Van Life, Living in New York. I'll tell you, I'm out here at a beautiful park. I was up on an overlook, but it's way too windy up there to be trying to do a video, and a lot of people coming and going because all of a sudden it's a beautiful day today. It's warm, except for when that wind kicks up, and I'll tell you, it gets mighty windy down here, friend. But I'll tell you, I'm sitting down in the valley, so it's not quite as bad, even though it's blown the camera over once. But the reason I'm sitting here is there's this trail right behind me that's going down this hill. And the Holy Spirit told me to sit here to talk about Jesus and some of the things that are said in the Bible. Because, sometimes things are important to understand what was said and why. And because a lot of times what has happened is Christianity knows nothing about Jewish law or old what was going on in the time. So Christianity is using things out of context in order to justify hypocrisy. And not that it bothers me any, because I forgive them for they know not what they do, right? Because Jesus said I had to. But just like I'm sitting at the top of this hill, and if you follow this ravine down, this is like a water wash, and it looks kind of like a trail, and then it kind of just drops off a steep cliff, and it's a hard climb, and it goes down to the railroad tracks and down to the river. And I'll tell you, it's a hard trail to go down and even harder to get back up. I've done it once. But the reason is when Jesus was talking to Peter and Jesus were actually on a field trip, right? Or told Peter that he was the rock that he was going to build the church on, and that Satan wouldn't prevail against, or Hades wouldn't prevail against it, meaning hell. They were in Caesarea Philippi, right? And so he was actually literally standing at the gate to Hades, because there is where they had a cave that had a water running in it. And friend, I'm going to refer you to Brandon Robbins' videos, because he's a man that I do listen to some of his things. The Holy Spirit showed me that you can trust him to give you some translations, and he doesn't give them all to me, friend. My Father leads me around to wherever I need to go. I'm not a smart man, and my Father doesn't give me anything that I don't need. And the whole point of being in relationship with my Father is to allow him to lead us around, right? Because that's what a relationship's about. If I'm his spouse, well then I'm supposed to let him guide me, and that's kind of the way I see myself, because I'm his child, but I also consider myself in a relationship with him, right? I've traded everything in my life for this relationship with God because it's the most important thing in my life. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't want other things. It just means that when I went to God, this is what he told me I was going to give him. That doesn't mean forever. I don't know how long I've got to do what I do. But it doesn't really matter. The only question is, what am I doing? And the answer is what my Father shows me. So anyway, Brandon Robbins did a great job of talking about this. And he talked about, and it is on my Clues to the Kingdom, which I will put right here. That way you will know, you can go look at that video. So anyway, they were standing at the entrance to the cave that they claimed was the entrance to Hades, right? So that's the reason he said that hell wouldn't prevail against the church, meaning Peter, meaning that the church would not, that the idols would not prevail against the church, which it did for a while, friend. If you want to look into history, you'll see the Dark Ages was actually brought on and created by the church. So I'm not here to glorify the church, not at all. But there is a remnant army of Christ that has reformed. And I'm not a part of that remnant army, really, even though I am, because I believe what they believe, but I really don't know what they believe, because my Father told me I'm not supposed to unite with them any more than I am anybody else. That for me to do what he asks of me, I have to do this kind of on my own until he tells me otherwise, because, well, everybody wants you to believe what they believe, and I only believe what my Father tells me, and what my Father has showed me is something different than what the church is saying. Because understand, just like he was standing in front of the gates to Hades, when you talk about hellfire in the Bible, that is actually not hellfire. You have to understand that Sheol was the place for the dead in the Jewish religion. And that was a place where you went to sleep. It was a place of rest. It was a place of unconsciousness. Hades was actually a Greek thing, and that is a pagan thought. And what Jesus talked about was Gehenna's fire. And the church translated it to hellfire and did what they did so that they could control you instead of letting you really seek the kingdom through Christ the way that it was supposed to. But understand, Jesus told you all this stuff was going to become available for you to know at the end of the age. So I'm not expecting you to believe me or Brandon Robbins. Go do your own research, friend. There's a lot of people out there doing research. You might want to check out on the playlist that I'm leaving on here the fact that there's a movie that's either America to Babylon or Babylon to America. I don't remember which one I saved. One's a redo of the other. But understand that will tell you who the Antichrist is. It will lay out all kinds of things that a lot of the churches don't know, and because they're still following what the Pope told you to do. So I want you to understand that Jesus told you that he said, I don't come to remove not one jot or tittle from the law, friend. Yet the Pope changed Saturday Sabbath to Sunday Sabbath, and that's what he says gives him his Ecclesiastes power. Understand that was a lie. No one had the right because Jesus said he didn't. So you're not Christian if you are following a religion that says that Jesus lied. And a lot of Christianity keeps saying that Jesus lied, because Jesus said that one thing, but then he said another. But religion has taken a couple things and made a religion out of it. And the only way for you to really know that this is true is go read what Jesus said. Go buy a red letter edition of the Bible and read what Jesus said and read. And you will see that Jesus told you to call no man Father but your Father in heaven. So now's a good time to ask yourself, why did the priests tell you to call them Father? Why would they do something that Jesus asked them not to? Because it was all about control, friend. It's been from the beginning. But it wasn't in the beginning, before Constantine molested the church. Because understand that before Constantine, Christians were dying, not killing. But because Constantine had a brilliant idea, since he couldn't kill the religion, he decided to pervert it. Because religion to emperors back in the day was about controlling the population. So what he did was, since he couldn't get them to get rid of their God, he gave them power, right? Go look, friend. It tells you that Constantine gave them positions of power in his government. So what he did was, since he couldn't get rid of the religion, he hitched a ride on it and made it his new power platform. And ever since then, it's been corrupted. And you know it, and I know it, and anybody that's looked at any documents of the history of religion knows that. Now, you might not know that because you haven't looked, but understand that Jesus told you that you were responsible for your salvation. Jesus gave you the parable about the person that buried their treasure, right? That treasure is your salvation, your eternal life, right? So if you buried it, at the end, what did Jesus say? Jesus said that one that went and buried it and said, but I knew you were a hard master, that he was going to take that treasure away from you and give it to other people. And I'm telling you that because Jesus told you that. So the church isn't telling you that. They tell you that if you believe in Jesus, that you get this free kingdom in your death that you didn't seek in your life. And I'm calling that a lie. Because Jesus called it a lie. Because before they said that all you had to do is follow the law. And Jesus called them sons of Satan, meaning sons of selfishness. But now Christianity has once again made their converts twice the sons of Satan because they've made them twice the sons of selfishness. They say that if you believe in what Jesus died on your cross for you and you don't have to do anything. Well, I'll tell you why people are buying into that and why nobody's reading what Jesus said. Because if you start reading what Jesus said and you really study him instead of everything else, you will see that Jesus was telling you something completely different than the church. So I really hope you're going to go read what Jesus said. And that's the reason I'm out here in the woods talking, because, friend, nobody wants me in their church because I'll question everything and they don't want to listen. So I come out here, give my Father everything, and He gives me everything for it. And so because I don't have to go pretend that what they're saying is true, I'm free to look and think about Jesus any way I want to, and I believe Jesus is the truth and the life. But understand that some things were hidden till the end of the age. Jesus and Judas created Yom Kippur. Go look at that. If you're a Christian, you're saying you're Jewish in spirit. Understand, you should at least understand the major. If you say that He's the Passover lamb, you should at least understand Yom Kippur. If you don't, you've left your salvation to those that were looking to have power over you, not those that were willing to give up their life so that they may have it. Jesus said that those that save their life will lose it, but those who lose it for His sake will gain it. So understand, there's been a period in time here where the light has been strong, and that hasn't been the case. But if you can't see what's coming, I can't help you, because we have manifested this thought of Satan into flesh, and this nation worships it. We sacrifice our children on Satan's altar, and there's a price to that. I'm telling you, there is. Even though everybody else wants to say there's not, there is. There was a price in the day back when the Jews did this, and there's going to be a price now that the Christians have done it. But a Christian nation has infected the world with this thought of Satan made flesh, and it's a publicly traded corporation. And I'm just telling you so that you may make your choices now, because if we'd have been giving my Father the Saturday Sabbath, we would have thought about what we were thinking about, and we'd have never let this happen. But because nobody did that, now that we can really see what's going on, nobody wants to look because they're too afraid. And fear isn't going to bring you the kingdom. Jesus told you, don't fear. You're of spirit, friend. You're eternal. Your flesh is but for a minute. But understand, I'm not talking about eternal hell, because that never made sense. That's what they used to scare you to death. I'm telling you that hell isn't going to be there. It's coming here. Jesus told you that. He told you that at the end of the age, that there was going to be great suffering. And that's not because my Father's angry, but we poured the first cup, right? We're the ones who created this thought of Satan, manifested into flesh, and let it do what it's done to us, friend. We become slaves to the corporations. And if you can't see it, once again, I can't help you. But I can't really help you anyway, because Jesus already came to save the world, right? I'm only here to speak the truth about what Jesus said. And it doesn't matter whether you believe me or not, friend. I hope you go buy a red letter edition of the Bible and start reading what Jesus said in red. Because here's the truth. You don't have to believe a word I say. But you do have to believe every word Jesus said. Because Jesus gave you kingdom rules in advance. And those that will not abide in the kingdom will not enter it. And I'm not talking about perfection, friend. My Father wants relationship. He manifested a thought which you call Lucifer, which you call Satan, which is a thought of fear. It gives you free will. It's in your head. You have two choices. And some that don't know Jesus yet and really know Him well don't even really know they have this choice. A lot of Christians don't even know they have this choice, right? But Christ is the thought of love. Satan is the thought of selfishness. The choice you make is the one you have. Now, if you want to choose Christ, then ask for forgiveness and really go do the things He asks. Go feed the hungry, clothe the naked, and visit people in prison. Go help those that are in need. Because if you bring the kingdom to others, you'll be given it for yourself. The only way to get the kingdom is to give the kingdom. The more you give, the more you'll receive. The more you receive, the more you'll have to give. you'll find so much love in it that you'll just give up worrying about all this selfishness, because all that does is cause you suffering and makes you hide your thoughts from God. Yet the little bit of selfishness you'll need, my Father will give you, because he wants you to enjoy what it is you have. So it isn't that he wants you to give it, because he said, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Yet sacrifice is required in order to have mercy. How many Christians do I hear talking about how bad the people are sitting in prison that you're stacking up like cordwood, friend? You know that we went off the gold standard forever ago, right? You know that we're on a fiat system of money which has crashed every time since Rome. Every superpower's done this over and over again. Once again, on the Clues to the Kingdom, you'll find the principles of changing world order. Go watch that video and you will see that this has been getting done over and over again, and we won't learn as a human race to stop doing it. However, because my Father allowed us to do this, he's allowed it to this point, because before the internet, you couldn't have understood. But at this point, we can all see what we're doing. We can all see where this is going. And the choice we make is going to be the one we have. So I'm saying this is a wonderful place to love thy neighbor as thyself. This is a great time to get to know Jesus and to know love by experience, because there's just no other better reason. Right? And if you do that, you'll end up finding this great thing called the kingdom that you didn't have before. Because the kingdom isn't about what you have, it's about the experience. And what I was a person that was in hell, meaning that I had a lot of unforgiveness and I couldn't forgive anyone else, but it was Christ that taught me how to forgive people and taught me how to go feed the hungry and clothe the naked. And when I started doing that, all the suffering I was in, I was no longer in, because I gave up my selfishness. I ended up finding a greater kingdom, which is just about love, peace, and joy. And that's it. You know, that's what you want in your life. So the purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. But when we don't all choose that together, well, then we start making bad decisions. And when we start doing it as the majority of us, then we get bad consequences. So what I'm always talking about is what Jesus was talking about, was how to get the kingdom in your life. And that's what I found was a greater kingdom in my life, because I did the things he asked. It doesn't make me special, friend. It makes me less, because that means I have to worry more about love and less about selfishness. Because that's what Christ came to teach us, was how to be less selfish and more loving. And he forgave us, for we know not what we did, right? And he said, if you know me, you know my Father. So my Father forgives you too. But he won't give it to you until you ask for it, even though he was never angry, because understand, my Father knew the end in the beginning. However, you have a thought in your head called Satan, called selfishness. And it is your adversarial thought. It acts not only as the liar that tells you to do things, it's also your jury and executioner. So it will convince you to do something wrong, and then it will be your accuser and make you feel terrible about doing it, and cause you to be cast into the darkness, which is hell here. I'm not talking about hell there, friend. Anybody that's been where I've been, that has done things to hurt other people, that has been a drug addict, an alcoholic, addicted to sex and all kinds of stuff, friend, you've already been to hell like me. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm telling you, if you don't want to end up back there, if you don't want to end up in that place, because Jesus did say at the end of the age, you're going to run out of time to make this choice. There's a reason he allowed this to go on, and that's because no one could know any better. But now we've all had a chance to know better. And those of you that didn't ever have the experience of ending up in hell have had the ability to learn what you need to learn, because, friend, you can look, knowledge is at your fingertips. I'm sitting here recording a video on a camera, which is actually a phone. And then I'm going to edit it and upload it to the internet. And it's going to go out to the World Wide Web, and anybody in the world can watch my video. Not that they do. But it doesn't matter, see, because I'm not responsible for the outcome. I'm only responsible for the action. The Holy Spirit tells me what to do, and then I do what he asks. Now, you can't believe that, and you won't know it's true. And if you followed religion and you believe what they believe because they told you to, then you're going to think I'm a liar. So I highly suggest you go buy a Bible with what Jesus said and read red. And also understand Yom Kippur. Because the Jews will not turn because you keep calling Jesus the Passover lamb. And Passover is not their ritual of atonement. Yom Kippur is the Jewish ritual for atonement. So they don't know that they got Yom Kippur yet, but they're about to. Because they aren't going to know it until the wilderness goat clears the horizon. That happens to be the American scapegoat. Just like Israel got itself in a position, America's done the same thing. We all see it. We all see that China and America are about to go head to head, and we're both armed with nuclear missiles to the end. We see that the corporations have us in a pinch and we can't get out from under them. We see all this is going down, friend. And because we did this in the name of God, he's giving us a way out. But if we don't take it, we're going to pay our debt. We will drink twice from the cup of the wrath of God, even though it's not his wrath. Because first he's going to let us drink the cup we poured for ourselves, which if you let the law fall in this nation, friend, you haven't been thinking about what you're thinking about. Because you have people butchering our children in school. Do you think that's going to get any better when the law falls? When the economy crashes and there's no money to pay the guards or feed the prisoners, what are you going to do with them? Have you thought about what you're thinking about? This would be a really good time, friend, because if you say you know Jesus, you're going to need to have some faith because there's a storm coming because we haven't thought about what we're thinking about. And I've been trying to tell people, nobody will listen to me. And I try to say just a little bit here and there, not to scare you too much at once, because the purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. But my Father gave you a set of laws. Jesus came and told you the truth. After that, we became adult children. Do as we will, pay the price, just like your children. My Father, his image and likeness is in our family unit. Once Christ arrived, we became adult children. We then had the answer to the truth. However, not everybody did, so my Father couldn't hold us accountable, right? But understand that his message has been spread to the world. Everybody knows about Christ now. So expect that my Father's going to let us experience what we've created. And that isn't going to be a good thing, friend. Unless you see something I don't, because I don't see anything coming except for what is. And my Father's told me that it's coming, so I just know it is. And you can't believe me, but you can look and see what's going on in this nation and seeing that this nation has become we have declared what is good evil and what is evil good. And Jesus told you about this. And friend, this is a Christian nation, so understand, because the churches won't leave their church and they've let people starve and they let this happen, there's a price for that. All the prostitutes and drugs were bought in my Father's name. On your money it says, "In God we trust." If you don't think there's a price to that, I'm telling you, you're not thinking. So I'm asking you to think about what you're thinking about and go study what Jesus said and come to know love by experience by going out and feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and visiting people in prison. If you want to change the world, you change it through love. Love makes a major change, because those folks that you're not helping, their children aren't getting helped either. So if you help them, they'll help their children. And if you help their children will help them. This just magnifies, friend. The kingdom snowballs into an amazing thing, but we did not make that choice because we chose power over love. We chose selfishness and judgment over love and forgiveness. And so I'm really hoping you're going to go look, friend. I really am. So I don't care whether you're atheist, Buddhist, Christian. I hope you're going to look at where this is going. Because I'm telling you, my Father's going to bring another kingdom, because he made Abraham a promise. And he made that promise so that he could bring his kingdom while he was doing your will. Because understand this. Jesus told you that to be the greatest in the kingdom, you have to be a slave to all. Do you think my Father isn't the greatest in his own kingdom? I'm telling you, he is. He's not doing his will, he's doing ours. But we keep making bad choices, so we keep getting bad consequences, and hell isn't there, it's here, friend. You keep leaving people in hell, so my Father has plenty of hell to send people to, and then they get another choice to get out or not. But what are you going to do when there's nothing but hell left on this earth? We're going to pay our due. So Jesus did talk about my Father was going to harvest his crop. He does not show me what that looks like, so I don't know. And I don't know who's going, but I can tell you that Jesus said that at the end of the age, his disciples, meaning those that didn't do what he asked, were going to owe twice the debt. That's in the Bible. It's in red. Go read it. So understand, not only is he going to deny you, but according to Jesus, that you're going to pay twice the debt as everyone else. Have you thought about why? Have you thought about how that's going to look? I sure hope you do. Because there's a price to all this, friend. And I hate to be the one that's always, bringing up the truth, but I have to speak with a whole tongue, friend. Satan speaks with half a tongue. He wiggles half a tongue. That's what Satan does. He tells you lies. The church is now wiggling half a tongue. They've been telling you lies. I hope you go look at that, because if you don't, you're going to be caught in a storm. So you need to decide on whether you're going to follow Jesus' parables and become one of the workers in the field harvesting love. Because if love isn't what you want, you don't want my Father's kingdom anyway. If you want power and glory, well, then you're going to get it at the end of the age. You'll be here to have all the glory you want, friend. Because you chose to take my Father's throne instead of letting him have it, because he wants us all to love one another. So, friend, I just hope that you're one of the people that are going to make the right choice. All right, friend, I hate when I get on a downer like this, but the truth is the truth, and my Father told me I have to speak the truth. I see that this isn't going to go well for me, friend. Unless it does. I trust my Father. Since Jesus said that he who gives his life for his sake will gain it, but if I keep it, that I'm going to lose it, I have to give it to him and let him do with it as he will. See, I don't think about what I'm going to talk about out here, friend. I just start talking, because Jesus said when you go before your judges, don't think about what to say, that he'll give you at that very moment what to say. So I come out here and I say whatever falls off my mouth, out of my mouth, because that's what Jesus told me to do. That's how Jesus spoke. That's the only thing that I really didn't like about the Chosen series that I saw so far. They made it sound as though he mapped out his sayings in advance. He didn't. The Spirit came down upon him and remained at baptism, friend. My Father was speaking for himself. That wasn't Jesus talking. It was my Father. And I know the people aren't going to understand that, but you need to start really going and reading what Jesus said and understanding a higher truth than what the church has been giving you, because they're giving you just enough to keep themselves in power. So give up being Christian and be of the Christ. Of the Christ means you follow what Jesus said and you believe in what Jesus said, not what the church said. Because the church isn't going to give you your salvation. The Pope isn't your Savior. Christ was. So I hope you go look at that, because if you're not going to put the mark of my Father on your forehead, which is the platelets between your eyes, according to the Bible, which is the fourth commandment, because the seal of God is a seal. It has his name, his title, and his territory. His name is God. His title is maker or creator of heaven and earth. And his territory is heaven and earth. Do you get that? That is his seal. So you're going to want to know that, because going into the end of the age, if you don't wear my Father's mark, well, go read Revelation and you'll see exactly what goes on there. Because you keep thinking that you're going to get plucked out from the beginning, and Jesus didn't say that. He told you that his bride was going to have to wake up and light their lamps, and a lot of them were going to run out of oil before they got to the wedding. So I'm hoping you're thinking about all that, because he wasn't lying. All right, friend. Well, I love you because my Father loves you, and every one of you are worth loving. My Father doesn't want us to do this to each other, but we refuse to stop doing it to one another. We quit refusing to accept that all of us deserve love and forgiveness. And because we refuse to accept that, he can't give us what we won't take. And Christ gave it to us. The kingdom is in the Christ. Go read Christ. All right, friend. May God bless you and yours.